Pastor Delbert,
Lauren,
thank you for doing this.
absolutely,
Appreciate it.
my pleasure.
I was excited to speak with you.
I'm also excited to be spoken to.
I was thinking that it's such a blessing to be able to sit here and hear what God's doing in people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
And something about these like radical transformations are so attractive. But one thing I really value and admire, and one thing I look up to you of, is people who have served God their whole life. And as someone who struggles with inconsistency, I really value the consistency of spiritual leaders like yourself. So I was hoping maybe the first thing you would talk about is, do you believe that this consistency or the ability to stay the course is a gift from God, or how do you do it? Please.
How do you do it? It's an excellent question. Buying time to think of a good answer. I think first and foremost is keeping your eyes on Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm just remembering back to a particularly difficult, dark time in my own life and experience, and just my mom saying, Del, just hold on to Jesus. That's all she said, not pages of advice.
Yeah.
Just hold on to Jesus. And wow, that's pretty much it.
So you've had spiritual guidance too, and people helping you stay on track as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And being surrounded with friends and people that are in the faith with you is, of course, invaluable. But it really boils down to you and your determination and recounting the faithfulness of God.
Every day.
Chances of survival so far have been 100%.
That's right.
So
And you've been a worship leader, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think if I recall correctly, you said that you used to go and sing and do praise and worship for like the elderly when you were growing up.
Yeah.
So one of my questions is about worship.
Okay.
And I know music has changed over time. Mm-hmm. And like say we went to a church and they used to be all hymns, and now it's more of a production with smoke and screens. So I know music has changed, but do you feel worship itself has changed? Is it more outgoing, or what's going on in the heart, or from your perspective as a worship leader who's done this over a lifetime?
I've seen things evolve to where it seems more expressive. In a corporate setting, coming together, where in the past it's been more, how would you say, more contemplative, if I can use that word. Yeah, which is excellent. It really is all about the heart. As one person said, really don't care how high you jump or how many chandeliers you swing on or how many pews you jump, but when your feet hit the ground, you better be walking straight. So to me, worship is more than just music. It is every facet of your life, an expression of honor to Him. But in the context of coming together as a local body of believers, I've seen it move from more quiet, reserved to more expressive. Of course, the variety is still out there. I go to many churches and it's still very liturgical, very contemplative, which is wonderful. The scripture says, be still and know that I'm God. It talks about reverence. So there's many different ways to express worship. And there's nothing, to me more beautiful than just sitting in His presence in quietness and letting Him wash over you, the word cleansing you as it's being spoken. And there's no more fun than shouting and jumping and dancing. It's a variety of expressions.
True.
Aren't we glad we don't all do it the same way?
I'm glad you said that, because I've been going through a period of time where I felt my worship has become more still. When there was a time where maybe I was more outgoing and I felt like I would look to David as being undignified before God. And I was almost questioning, I talked to Thomas about this recently, buddy, who we did this with, and we were talking about, that expression through worship, and that I was feeling, it was just showing differently, and I'd wondered, Not if I was doing something wrong, or it's just something I've been searching myself about, like why I'm not more undignified lately. So I'm really glad you said that.
Absolutely. Because sometimes on one side they say, well, they walk out of a service and they say, wow, we had church, for that expression.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, then my question is, what defines that? Is it because what were the characteristics of that service that made you say, we really had church today?
Yeah.
Because the expression of that group compared to someone else would say, no. Say, well, we were being led by the Spirit. It was just overwhelmed. That's awesome. But if you're not careful, then what you've just said was spontaneous now has become your list of.
Yeah, this is how I feel God.
Yeah.
Whoa. That's true.
So in my travels among many churches, denominations, you find that everyone says, well, that was a good service. Well, tell me what to you made it that way.
Right. Do you think, we can get into the habit of trying to box it in. So like, I felt God this way one time, so I'm going to keep doing that. Do you think the American church is doing that?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. Because if you're not careful, then what you're saying, this expression or the fact that it was over the top as far as volume or, just an ecstatic expression of clapping and shouting and all that, well then what happens if that doesn't happen? Now all of a sudden we didn't have a good service?
I didn't encounter God?
Right.
Yeah.
And so, boom, now you've just made what you think is the good expression a tradition, haven't you? If now it has to be the norm.
Whoa. Yeah. And I do think about times that I've been maybe moved. There has been a lot of stillness and reverence, and maybe in my own life I would like to push closer in that area.
And everyone's different.
Yeah.
Isn't that good, I would say?
Praise God.
I mean, how boring it would be, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I just love going to Africa and see them just, like, wow, they're just so expressive and joyous. And then to walk into a place that's just absolutely quiet. And it's in the scriptures, right? You look through Psalms, there's all kinds of ways to express your praise.
Yeah.
Clap your hands, all you people. Shout unto God with a voice of triumph. Psalm 150. Praise ye the Lord. Praise him with the psaltery and the harp, the timbrel, the dance, the drums, the loud cymbals, instruments, Go for it. But then in the New Testament, not one mention of an instrument, except in Revelation, of course, where you're talking about, or the trumpet will sound, and what we call the rapture, or anything like that. But anyway, the point is, in the New Testament, not. The reference to music is in Colossians chapter 3. You sing and you make melody where? In your hearts to the Lord.
Well, so do you think that's like being in spirit and truth in a way? Like it's happening inside as opposed to in the Old Testament it's happening outside?
Mm-hmm.
Or did they, in the New Testament, did they neglect instruments in worship? They were still worshiping, right?
Yeah, the implication is there, because these are, for the most part, Jewish folks, part of the church, also then became the Gentiles as well, everyone. It became open to everyone. The gospel's traveling to every nation, right? So I think it involved a lot of their culture. And with the Jewish folks, of course, very expressive, lots of music. So to say that it didn't exist in the early church, I think would be, I don't think you could say that.
Right.
Just because of their culture and stuff.
Interesting.
But it is interesting there's no mention of it in.
Yeah, I never knew that. Whoa.
So there are some churches that hold to that.
Right.
That's why, from my background in culture, the Amish and the conservative Mennonites, a cappella in their gatherings of services, just a cappella. They don't use instruments. For that very reason, the Church of Christ, being very conservative, that conservative group, also a cappella, because of what I just mentioned.
So they want to stay away from the instruments, or they just feel a deeper connection?
For them, that's the scriptural revelation for them in the New Testament. and keep it more pure, keep it just a vocal thing.
How do you navigate growing up that way, being Amish, Mennonite, and now it's not like you've departed from that, right? You still have the same traditions or connection with God. Has it been different?
Yes. I appreciate my heritage. I consider it to be a blessing.
Yeah.
And yes, to me, because of my background and culture, there's nothing more beautiful than sitting in a church.
Yeah.
And there's no instruments. There's no one on the platform leading anything. You're simply sitting as a family of believers, and all of a sudden somebody will start singing a song. Just lead it out.
Whoa.
The whole congregation will join in. 4-part harmony, just beautiful a cappella. Nothing to distract or detract from the human voice giving praise to the Lord. And it's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
And it'll put, as they say, duck pimples on their goosebumps, you know. It's just...
It sounds so intimate.
It is. But then I love to go into, you know, a worship gathering in a Coliseum like we've been over to Grand Rapids. And,
yeah.
You know, the drums and the bass are just like thumping your chest, and you know, it's just the place is rocking.
Right.
And it's just, you know, and celebrate. It's awesome. I'm just so thankful that we have a God of variety, and He didn't.
Yeah.
Just so many ways to express.
In a way, He like gives us each what we need. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a personal relationship. People talk about a personal relationship.
Yeah.
And it really is.
It is. That's the beauty.
So you also have gone in and out of prisons. You're in the
have.
prison ministry.
I'm just glad they let me out. Right?
Yeah, what's that like?
It's first, it's a bit, yeah, it kind of rattles you.
Yeah.
Every pun intended, yes. Rattles you as you're walking in, because it's like, boom, those gates literally slam behind you, and it's like, wow, we're locked in this place.
Yeah.
With some very interesting, dangerous people.
Yeah.
Right.
Questionable.
Yeah. Questionable. Right.
And I consider myself one of those questionable guys.
Yeah. I first went in when I was 15 years old.
What?
I shouldn't have been. Yeah. There was a lady in South Bend, our hometown there, whose son had, he was a very notorious criminal and was in prison hardcore. Got saved and got out and became an evangelist. Wow, just a wonderful testimony.
Yeah.
Well, his mom had such a heart for the boys still left in there, and she put together a volunteer group in our town, heard about this kid that could play some piano, and said, hey, would you come in with us? And so I went in for the first time at age 15. We went in about twice a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, into different sections of the prison, and yeah, just did music.
Do you feel like God had led you to that for a specific reason? That was kind of one of my questions, is how we show up in these different areas, and you feel like, yeah, that was divine intervention, ordained by God that you would go in there.
Yeah. For me, it was a way to answer the call. At an early age, about 9 or so, discovering a real love for music. My parents noticed that. I began to take a few lessons. And by age 12, I was doing public ministry. My dad...
12?
Yeah. My dad took us to the homeless shelters.
Yeah.
He played a little guitar. Mom sang some harmony. And of course, with our background, with all that, lots of music. And so here we went to the homeless shelter. And I just really felt that I'd been given a gift, and God had called me, and that I should use this gift. I didn't want to bury it. I didn't want to hide it. I felt that I should use this to bless others. And so I just looked for opportunities. Homeless shelters, and then nursing homes.
Yeah.
Forgotten people.
Right.
But I ended up going, and this is when, in my teens, 3 times a week I went to different nursing homes to minister. Once a month to the homeless shelter. and then at age 15, twice a month to the prison. Any opportunity that the Lord opened, I said, that's me, I got to go do it.
From such a young age.
Mm-hmm.
You said for the forgotten people.
Yeah. The least, the last, and the lost.
Yeah. When I think of this, I think of that verse about the widows. I don't know it off the top of my head, but
Pure religion?
it's, yeah.
James chapter 1, last verse, yeah, of the chapter.
It sounds like you took action once you heard that.
Yeah, I felt very strongly. I have a gift, need to use it for the Lord, I'm not going to bury it. And are we going to wait for that amazing opportunity on American Idol or something like that?
Yeah.
No. You serve, and I've always been taught, again, part of my culture, you bloom where you're planted. Where God has planted you, that's where you bloom.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So are there needs around? Yeah. There are needs everywhere. There are people that are forgotten. So let's not wait for the pie in the sky and the glamorous opportunity. Bloom and serve right where you're at.
It's so tempting to think, oh, well, maybe once I get there, I can do something or go there.
Yeah,
but that's
like
true.
You got to be Billy Graham or
yeah,
Chris Tomlin or he has a plan for each of you.
Yeah. One of my questions about the prison ministry is, from experience, I know that maybe being in my time here at Teen Challenge, that being set apart is a lot easier when you're already set apart. Like maybe if you had to be somewhere, it's a little easier to abstain from things in the outside world. Did you see that in prison, that maybe they have a better opportunity to dive in because they're not bombarded with the temptations we are in the world? And does that cause a larger fire for Christ, or is it pretty much the same?
In very many ways, I'd say it's similar to here at Teen Challenge, because it is a bit of a protected or isolated environment.
Yeah.
Are the fires burning brightly? Oh yeah. The church inside the walls, incredible.
That's what I want to know.
Blazing, just amazing.
Yeah.
You go in and do music and have a service with the guys and just, blow your socks off.
Right.
Awesome stuff. But then you have the other side of it. Is it just jailhouse religion? Is it just foxhole conversion? In other words, God, get me out of this mess.
Yeah.
And I'll serve you, but then once they're released from prison, once you exit Teen Challenge, once that protective environment is not there, then what will you do? Well, that's when you prove what you're really made of.
Yeah. Are there things in place to help those guys once they leave? I know God provided that for me in a way that maybe it wasn't like a structured environment, but it took someone opening their home to me, a church opening their doors to me, getting me involved. So I felt really taken care of in that way, but does everyone have that? Maybe God will provide. But what have you seen?
Ultimately, He's our caregiver, but it is a great need.
Yeah.
Not everyone has the opportunities that you hope they would. There are halfway houses.
Yeah.
There are ministries out there. And if they plug into the chaplaincy in that prison, most of your chaplains are great men of God.
Oh, okay.
That might be able to say, hey, you're from this community, I have connections here. I know there are ministries and even volunteers that come in like we did. Our ministry came in. We went all over the United States and Canada, but there are local people like I did in South Bend to that local prison when I was a teenager. That was invaluable in that you have a local group of volunteers coming into that local prison, and then a lot of them establish relationships.
Oh.
And so now as their time of release is getting close, you have people there that would absolutely do anything for you to help you once you get out. So there are opportunities. Do we need more? Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But if a person is really serious God will make a way.
Yeah. One thing I've seen from guys who have come from that background is their incredible ability to recite the Bible.
Oh yeah.
And they know it like the back of their hand.
They do.
But also maybe I've seen a knowledge, like you said, and maybe they lose it once they leave. Or, well, I've seen the same in my life, where I can tell you what to do, but sometimes I struggle.
The matter of the head to the heart, right?
Yeah. One of the different questions I had for you is about, and I'll tell you this quick story. I met a friend, and he was in the war in Iraq, and he was telling me his convoy was exploded, bombed. He said they would have tripwire, and as the tank would roll by, it would ignite, boom. And he told me this crazy story how he felt his bones moving, everything. But he said he designed this thing that was razors for the front of the tank that would cut that wire. And when he said that, I was like kind of taken back. I was like, what do you mean you designed this? And he said that war is, they did everything they could do. They would find metal on the side of the road, they'd weld it to their trucks. It wasn't like I thought it was like battle formation type thing. And it really clicked for me that ministry and serving God is that same thing. That it's not always like I'll sing, I'll worship, I'll preach. Like, you wear a lot of different hats, and you specifically. Like, you're going in and out of prisons, you're going to elderly homes, you're here answering phones when I've called, You're
right.
Will you talk maybe about all those different hats and what ministry is like in that way, that it's not always like a cookie cutter thing?
Right. Very true. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might.
Yeah.
If you're faithful in the little, He'll give you more to take care of. Sweeping the sidewalks, cleaning the toilets are just as important as preaching to thousands in a crusade.
Yeah.
It's all ministry. It's all that we do. Every part of our life is an act of worship, an expression of worship. It's not just about music. I love music. It's a wonderful tool. It's a beautiful gift. But it's about living your life, every part of it, as unto the Lord, and an act of worship to Him.
Yeah, I have that revelation here through Greg.
Yes.
God helped me see that through him. That he's a groundskeeper here, the maintenance guy, and he was like, I saw through his actions, like that was his worship, was to be able to fix a lawnmower, a toilet, or whatever.
Yeah.
And that was a big moment for me, because I always thought maybe I had to become a pastor or something if I wanted to impact people or impact the kingdom, But that was a big one for me. Is there anything working here with the guys that you do work with that's especially challenging and maybe rewarding at the same time?
The reward is very evident, and that is as you see lives transforming, changing by the power of God, the work of the Holy Spirit, and to be able to, in a chapel service, lead some music and see them fully engage and express their worship, and to see the tears and to see what God, it's absolutely rewarding, because you see them come in the door totally broken, totally messed up, and to see the transformation, it's awesome. And to be able to live life with them and see that is amazing. The toughest challenge for me here so far, having been here about a year and 10 months now, is when someone decides to walk away.
Yeah.
And so often I come in the doors here and it's almost like I'm holding my breath. And I sit down at the table to eat, and I'm always seeming to count the guys in the room, because I want to see if they're all still here.
Yeah.
And then when you say, oops, I'm missing one, so you ask the question, well, where's Joe or whatever?
Yeah.
says, well, he decided to leave. It's not that God can't take care of them, and it's not that they can't experience life change leaving this place, but the stats and the odds of that, if you just go by the raw data.
Yeah, you put your all into each guy.
And yes, you know, chances are what they're walking out the door to is a return to devastation. And to me, that is the toughest part, because you pour your life into them, you forge that relationship. Yeah.
One thing that you did when I was here, and it was, I think you were new to the place too, like we had come in similar times, but I maybe had one conversation with you, and in chapel, you named off every person, and you knew us all, and like I knew that we meant a lot to you, or like this was,
Absolutely.
you were in it with all your heart. So that was, I think it made me want to be better too, or like to care for each person individually.
Each one so valuable, made in the image of God. We are his image on this planet.
Yeah.
We are the expression of him. And he shared his name with us,
Yeah.
which is identity and character. It's not just a name as we think of it. No.
Yeah.
Name in the ancient culture was everything. Identity, character, authority, all in the name. And he, our Father, has shared his name with us.
Whoa. He shared his identity. Yeah, all the attributes that Jesus had. When God looks at us, he sees that. Yeah, the name. That's something,
Much like a bride and a bridegroom, and even the experience of God and his people at Mount Sinai was that of the language there. I will take you, the Father says, God, I will take you as my people. Take you is a marriage expression. Will you take this man to be your lawful wedded husband? Will you take this woman? Those are all expressions in a traditional marriage ceremony. That's the language used in Exodus there. When he says, I want to be your God, I want you to be my people, I will take you as my people. That's an expression of marriage. It's a relationship. And just like you give each other at the altar and the name, often the bride will take the name of, the same idea.
yeah, I've heard that the Ten Commandments were wedding vows.
Yes, in many ways. Yes.
Are there things you're still learning today that there's such richness in the Bible?
Oh my, yeah.
And
incredible.
I'm amazed still, like I could read a verse today and somehow, it's alive and active. But as someone who's followed God his whole life, is that still happening?
Big time.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
That's our amazing God. We'll spend eternity and still never have plumbed the depths of or found everything out about the Word, meaning Jesus.
Yeah.
Words on a page, awesome. But ultimately, those words on a page, the written, inspired Word, needs to point us to the Word, Jesus. He is the living expression of God.
Yeah.
The
He's
Word.
the expression of God.
Words express thoughts.
Yes.
What does God think? I'll tell you what he thinks. Look at Jesus. Words express our thoughts. The Word, Jesus, is the grand expression. Hebrews tells us he is the exact representation. Corinthians tells us he's the express image, the exact representation of the Father. Jesus said, if you've seen me, you've seen my Father. Jesus is God with skin on. You want to know who the Father is? Look at Jesus. You want to know what the Father is thinking? His words have been expressed in the Scriptures, but ultimately in the person of Jesus Christ, the Word who became flesh and dwelt among us.
Yeah.
So every day his Word becomes more amazing. And just when you think you've heard it all,
Yeah. Another light bulb moment.
big time.
Man, I think about expression, and maybe this is something God has been pulling me towards lately. And I think of David and like some of the poetry that's come from Psalms and stuff. And as a musician and worship leader, what is your connection with the expression of words? And like, do you write your own music, or have you expressed yourself in that way? Like, is there a connection?
Definitely a connection. I've not written a lot of my own. Most of it ends up being in times of worship, either personally or as I'm leading. Phrases and things will come to my heart, and I'll just use the music at that moment and begin to sing those phrases. So it's sort of it is a spontaneous expression. I've written a couple of lyrics that would be considered a formal song or something, but nothing much.
Yeah.
I do more composition of music that just seems to flow.
Yeah. Yeah. I always think of like a DJ who can put songs together to make it flow in a certain way. One thing I've really enjoyed talking with you about is music.
Yeah.
And you talked about music being a vehicle to the heart, that somehow it can cut through. And that was impactful to me. Yeah. Will you talk about that?
Sure, absolutely. To me, music is timeless.
Yes.
It really, everyone, has their favorites and preferences as it relates to genres of music. I like it all. To me, it really boils down to this: the lyrics. Again, I enjoy, tons of styles. Just love it.
Yeah.
And just love to watch the image of God come through another musician, and that creative ability just come out of them, no matter if they're doing jazz or rhythm and blues or classical, you name it. It's just all beautiful.
Yeah.
To me, again, it boils down to the lyrics, and I like to put it, as you learned here, that think of it as a vehicle, because music touches every part of a person.
It does.
I mean, watch a person and their body. If the music is sad, they'll cry.
Right.
If it's happy, they'll dance.
Yeah,
So your
you're
body's
pumped up,
involved.
True.
Your soul, your emotions are involved, obviously, but it's also impacting your inner being, your spirit, man. And so music is powerful.
Yeah.
And it's like driving a vehicle right through the front gates. It's going right into body, soul, spirit, to the core of a being. Nothing stopping it. It goes. I mean, how did you learn your ABCs?
Yeah. True. Books of the Bible, everything.
Yeah. So it's very, very important. Not so much the vehicle as far as the genre goes. It might be a Cadillac, a Lincoln, whatever.
Yeah.
Not so much the style of the vehicle. It's what's inside of the vehicle that when it gets inside of you is going to unload and deposit in your heart. Lyrics, that's where it is.
Knowing that,
What are you putting in?
ooh, that makes me maybe convicted, or like I'm opening up my heart to something that maybe shouldn't be. Have you seen that with new believers, that's an area where maybe they can be attacked and they don't even realize it?
And for some, for most, I would say music has been attached to the mess of their past in some form or fashion. And so that could be one of those triggers that you have to be aware of. You don't even realize it.
Yeah.
And it's like all of a sudden you'll get around and that particular, maybe that was the style that you enjoyed.
Yeah.
Or whatever, and boom, all of a sudden
Back in.
and all those lyrics that were part of that are there. So that's why everyone makes the choir at Teen Challenge. Everyone. Why? Because we're learning how to grow in this expression of worship in music because it's so powerful.
Very powerful. It's definitely been tied. I can see correlation in my own life of maybe when I've allowed that to come in, that I have strayed in my heart. And maybe I'll catch it, where God will show me something. But one thing I love and I think about often is you said music is timeless. And I always think that the angels in heaven that surround the throne, that day and night they never stop singing, holy, holy, holy. And when I sing those words, I genuinely feel direct connection with that, and it's like it centers me, and that's just such a powerful imagery for me, in my time of worship, that somehow I could be in sync with God, and even the angel around him and stuff.
And you are.
Yeah, it is timeless. I was recently asked some tough questions.
Yes, you
so
were.
I'm going to ask you them. I spoke with a man,
thanks,
friend of mine, who's in the medical industry.
Okay.
And he works with cancer patients. And he says every week he's either telling someone they're going to die or they do die. He said 3 times a week, every week. And he was a believer, and he still is, but he's drifted, and he says he wonders about how can people suffer. And one guy says, gets healed and says God is good, and the other guy passes away and his family doesn't get to say that, were his words. So I wonder how you would answer that. Why is there suffering? Why is one person being healed and one person not? And he even brought up, how come there are slaves in other countries and here we're comfortable? And it was a hard question for me to answer, so putting the ball in your court.
Thanks, Lauren. I think the book of Job really speaks a lot to that, is why do the righteous, or why do good people suffer? Why do bad things happen to good people? I mean, I get it if I've done something stupid.
Yeah.
And there's a natural consequence to that. I get that. But what about the times when I do something good or have good intentions, a good heart, and I reach out to give someone, and what I pull back is a bloody nub,
Yeah.
Why suffering? It's a tough one. Some of the things that I've learned about it, and again through the book of Job, God didn't create evil, and so I think he gets a lot of bad press.
Yeah.
It really is not his deal. But why are some, healed and others not? That's part of what Isaiah the prophet has to say. His ways are so much higher than our ways, and he knows the end from the beginning. I don't. As a believer, we do have hope. And so I choose to look at it this way. Yes, I wish that my family member and I have a few in mind, that are not with us now, that weren't healed, even though we pleaded and cried out to the Lord and asked. And I believe we had faith. I mean, I've seen people healed right here at Teen Challenge, right in front of me. So this, absolutely, my faith in a God who heals, and that's one of his names. He's the God that heals us, Jehovah Rapha. He's the God that heals. It's his nature to heal. He's the giver of life. Jesus, by his stripes, it says we're healed. Isaiah, again, Peter talks about it. It's there. I have no trouble believing that he can do it. But why did he do it for this cousin of mine or that? And I guess what I hope to is this. Ultimately, they were healed, weren't they?
Yeah, delivered.
They have a new body.
Yep.
Or, they're in a place. Sometimes I say, wow, wait a minute. You got there before I did. Now I'm jealous.
Yeah, who's really healed?
Exactly. Right. And I know for that doc, boy, wow, that's a lot to carry. But God knows the end from the beginning. And I think one of the first words out of our mouth when we arrive in heaven is going to be, oh,
yeah.
Now I get it.
Makes
Because
more
we'll
sense.
understand the rest of the story. The other thing is that we have a God who's just, and I like to think that I'm just. But that's only based on the facts that I know, and often I don't know every side of the story. I'm making a judgment to bring justice to what I see and what I know. We have a God who is completely and ultimately just. He does know everything from beginning to end.
Yeah.
And so I have hope in this, that one day God will make everything right. He knows what is completely right and just. And one day He will make the wrong right. I may not see it in this life. The other thing is that we're the only religion or faith in the world that worships a God who suffered.
Whoa.
So that's the other thing that brings me encouragement, is His ways are higher than my ways. He knows it all. He will bring justice to the world. He will. And my loved ones that weren't healed are enjoying a better place. But also my Father, my God that I worship, knows what it's like to suffer. He knows.
Yeah.
He died the most horrible death ever. So my God knows what it's like to suffer.
Yeah.
Doesn't that give me hope?
Definitely.
And so the ones that say, well, our answer to this whole thing of suffering is, well, there is no God. There's just nothing more than what's material, this table, what I can see, touch, and feel. We're just all animals. Even us humans are simply an animal on a little higher level. We're just animals. And when it's over, in this life, it's over. Nothing is more than material or natural. And so they say, that's my answer to the suffering thing. There is no God, and we just all live and then we die. Well, that might be your answer, but your answer certainly didn't eliminate suffering, did it?
Right.
Because we still have suffering and brokenness. That might be your answer. There is no God, but we still have it. From my view, and I'll emphasize that, my view is, my answer is, I have a God who loves and who suffered. And I have hope. So, does my answer eliminate suffering? No. Neither does yours, where there is no God. But for us as believers, we have an incredible hope of a life to come that says this is not the end.
Yeah.
And my God knows what it's like.
Definitely. I take joy and hope in, I'm thankful. There's a lot of things I don't know. And I don't understand. And for some reason I think it's tempting to think, well, I don't understand it, so it's not right. I don't understand calculus, but I know, somehow A equals X minus 12.
Right.
I don't understand that either, but I like the way you put that. I like the way you answer. I wish I would have put that so eloquently, or I did not. But
well, and again, I'm only human.
Yeah, I think my answer to him was that God is just, and that He causes the sun to rise and fall on the evil too, and He loves us that much that He would allow that to happen because He loves those evil people too.
Yes, it rains.
Which I am one,
Exactly.
I don't think that really scratches the itch, but that was
well. It rains on the just and the unjust.
Yeah. And I like what you said too. Like, I think there will be a time we understand. It's like, oh,
now I get it.
yeah, we can take hope that that God knows the right path.
And it also brings a relief to some of those nagging questions, like, did I do something to cause this? Because that was really some of what Job dealt with, right? All his wonderful friends. Well, Job, it's because you had sin in your life. It's because of, they tried to lay it all out, X, Y, Z. God said, no. This had nothing to do with Job. He was a perfect, righteous, complete man. I allowed this to happen because I wanted to prove that Job serves me not because of what I give him, but because of who I am. So that to me is the ultimate test of suffering. Do I run away when time gets hard? Do I look inside and say, well, it's my fault because I did something to deserve it? The test is, do I serve him because he's God and not because of what he can give me? And God proved his point.
Yeah, and Job was
stayed
restored.
the course. He was restored.
You know, my friend brought up Job, and he said he understood that Job was restored, but he brought up that Job had servants, and he had children before, and they were killed. And he said, what about those people? And that question I did not know how to answer. And I think maybe it's kind of beside the point of that story. You know, that if, like, this story was about Job, like, different movie. But...
Right. I guess not to sound uncaring or flippant, we all will die at some point.
Yeah.
His family, according to what we read in that story, were worshipers of God as well. I mean, So when we look at eternity, and I guess that's something to keep ourselves reminded of too, is we are eternal beings. We're only now trapped in this thing called time and space. And when we look at the spectrum of eternity and look at something we call time in our existence here, it's like a speck on a huge map. I mean, you can barely see it. It means so much to us now.
We're dust, right?
We try to hold on to things so tightly, but in reality, if we are eternal beings, which I believe we are, then
one way or the other.
So someone lived 75, someone lived 15, somebody. I don't get it. I don't understand. God does, but the fact of the matter is, in the whole scheme of things, it really is.
Yeah. I think you brought up great points there. Thank you.
Yeah.
Pastor Delbert.
Yes.
Like I said earlier, you're someone I really looked up to and valued the things that you've said.
Thank you.
And your ability to just do whatever. You know, like whether going in and out of prisons, worshiping, answering a phone. I think you've made a bigger impact on me than maybe you would realize. And man, I just appreciate that your obedience has somehow helped my walk. And that's an amazing thing, that somehow your walk could impact mine. And you've always pointed upwards. And I appreciate that about you, and I thank you for what you do here and for these guys, maybe that have left and didn't get a chance to thank you. So I thank you. And
you're welcome.
I appreciate it. You said you might end us with a song?
Sure. We'll do a combination of timeless music, right?
Sounds good.
We'll take the, it's called the National Anthem of Prison Ministry. It's Amazing Grace. And we'll put it with a newer rendition by, I think, My Chains Are Gone, I've Been Set Free, one of our more recent contemporary artists. Yeah.
Sounds good.
That work?
Love you, Pastor Delbert.
Love
Thank
you too, Lauren. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah.